We're going to shuffle the deck here a little bit. Mad the Swine revisited next on Crown Jewels. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of Crown Jewels here in the PLD Projects Network. I'm your host, PLD, and this is the podcast going through the entirety of the Queen catalog. We did pause for a brief second. We were in the middle of Flash Gordon when the Queen 1 Collector's box set came out. So we paused and we're going to revisit some of the Queen 1 tracks because we have new versions to listen to. That's right. We listen to every track, every version of every track, try to discover what is the crown jewel, the titular crown jewel version of the track to put into our ultimate playlist. Now, we're going to use the box set release as a way to kind of jigger the set list, so to speak, because the box set did. Mad the Swine, which I initially put out as an episode after the rest of the album tracks because it was a bonus track. It was not released at the time. But the Queen 1 box set reinserted it back to where it was initially intended to go, in between Great King Rat and My Furry King. So I figured, hey, I'll go along with this. We're doing the box set anyway. Let's do what the box set doesn't. Mad the Swine won't be here. I'm going to put it that way in the playlist now, too, because if that's what Queen initially intended and wanted to happen, and now they're doing it that way themselves, I figure, what the hell. Your miles may vary. I get purists might not want to do that, but hey, you can make your playlist any way you want. I'm just showing you my playlists. All right, Mad the Swine, if you want to listen to that episode, it is from a while back now, but it is in our YouTube channel. It is in our audio feed as well. You can hear all the usual things we do there, the notes, the quotes, the credits, all that stuff. This revisiting part of the catalog, we're just listening to the new versions that were released and comparing them to what we originally listened to. Now, what we originally listened to back in the day was only one version. The track went unreleased originally during the 1973 album release. It wasn't released until 1991. It was released as a B-side in the UK, and in the US, Hollywood Records had gotten a hold of the Queen contract and were reissuing all of these CDs on their label in the North American market. They had released every album with some bonus tracks. Honestly, most of them were bad dance remixes. Your miles may vary. I consider them pretty bad dance remixes overall. But then the Queen album actually had a nice gem in Mad the Swine. Now, as rumors and story will have it, I don't believe this was ever truly confirmed. The only reason this got released is that when Queen handed the master tapes over to Hollywood Records for remastering, this was on there, and they didn't even remember that this was on there. So Hollywood Records kind of got this as a bonus and said, hey, we're going to release it. And Queen kind of almost didn't have a reason or way to say no. So they said, okay. And that's why they put it on the B-side of one of the Innuendo singles. Off the top of my head, I believe it was the Headlong single. Fast forward now to 2024, we are back with Mad the Swine. It was back reinserted into the album release, and we have, again, new versions to listen to, 3 of them. We have the 2024 mix, which, as I've mentioned ad nauseum now, but in case this is your first episode, Queen was never happy with the sound of the original album release due to the fact that it was recorded in Trident Studios under their arrangements. They had to use Rogers, had to use the house drum set. The mix was always done to their stylings. It was never a very happy recording for Queen. They always wanted to go back and do something about it. They finally did in 2024. So every song of the album gets a 2024 mix, which is helping out the drum sound, the guitar sound, and other things as well. So we have that to listen to. We also have the bonus tracks, which were the Trident Take 3 with a guide vocal. Interesting version that is a kind of a where it was at the time and kind of an earlier version than was eventually released. And we have the backing track version, something Queen has done with almost all of the releases as a bonus track. Usually not crown jewel worthy, but definitely worth a listen to. So let's get to it. If you look in these show notes, you'll see a Google Doc, or a link to a Google Doc, which will have links to YouTube versions of all the versions we're going to listen to today. I also included a link to the 2011 remastering of the 1991 original release, so you can compare that between the original version and the 2024 mix. The 2011 remastering by Island, when they released the Queen catalog again with bonus tracks, it's basically the same version, just a remastering. The 2024 mix is a total remix. That's kind of the big difference there. So you can listen to the original version, then you can listen to the 2024 mix and make those comparisons. Then we got the other ones we'll listen to as well. But how do we do that? Well, I'm going to tell you in a moment to pause me, click on one of those links, listen to it, come back, and then you unpause me, and I'll talk about it. So first up, I'm going to say pause me now. Well, not exactly now. I'm going to say pause me now in a second, so you can go listen to both the original version if you'd like and the 2024 mix. Then you can come back, and I'll tell you all about it. Okay, go ahead now.
Been here before, a long time ago, but this time I wear no sandals.
And there you have it. Now, right away, one thing I have to say is that there was another rumor and story that went around back in the day. We had heard the story that Mad Swine was initially between Great King Rat and My Fairy King. Great King Rat had faded out, and the abrupt introduction to the song, the first very beat of the song, was so abrupt and cut it almost seems like the band had cut, or the studio had album or whoever had done the remastering had cut the very beginning of the song, and we only got the snippet. The been here before. So there's this rumor going around that there was actually a fuller version with the I've been here before intact. But the 2024 mix, which actually does reinsert this and actually keeps the drum set, the drum mix longer in Great King Rat, it's still got the same original released version that has the cut off beginning. So maybe it wasn't actually cut off, and that's actually just the way the track began. So it's nice to have that kind of confirmation. I mean, I'd say it's 99.9% confirmed, unless they really decided maybe they lost it and during the remastering, and maybe they decided to throw it in that way. I don't know. There's always that chance that there's something out there without any official word either way. You can only go with your gut, and it seems to me that maybe that's just the way it was done. I got to say now, listening to both of them together was a very stark difference. The original release, even the remaster, was very muddy sounding, and much of the album was muddier sounding, but this was one that definitively sounded a lot heavier, a lot sloggier, a lot like there was just a grime over it in a way. Now, right away, in this version, Brian's acoustic guitar is so much brighter, so much more distinct. And that's the word I could use. Every part is more distinctive. The bass, much more distinctive. The voice parts are much more distinctive. The background harmonies. Freddie's voice is actually really even ethereal at times, even more ethereal. It's got this very airy quality to it. The drums are much punchier. I will say the drums are sometimes hit or miss, according from fans that have listened to the Queen 1 box set. They are very different sounding. Sometimes some people have said they sound too modern comparatively. I will say I wonder if it's just the fact that it's so different sounding that you're not used to what you're hearing. That could be a part of it. And while I certainly can understand the perhaps issues with it, it didn't bother me very much. And throughout the whole album, I think the whole album sounds better with the more punchier drums for sure. One thing I distinctively remembered hearing that I didn't kind of catch in the middle, there were a few echoes that I heard that were, I don't know if they were added or if they're actually there in the original mix and just brought out, but add a nice little touch to it. Overall, I do like the 2024 version much better than the original version as far as, because it's just a brighter sounding song. I feel like I'm there in the room. I feel like there's nothing covering it up. It feels like you're taking off this grimy cover on something and seeing something much brighter and shinier underneath. So, all right, that'll do it for that version. Let's go on to the rest of the versions. Next up, Trident Take 3 with guide vocal. You know that terminology. Most likely not going to be a crown jewel. It is a guide vocal only. But let's listen to it and see what we got.
This thing always sounds out of tune even though it is.
And there you have it. As far as the musicality goes, there's not a whole lot to talk about, to be completely honest. It doesn't sound much different. It sounds a little like they're not quite as gelled on it yet. That's about it. Honestly, the best part about this version is the banter. I love the beginning banter with Brian. It's you, Bulsara, you bastard. He's talking to Freddie, and Freddie's Mercury moniker hasn't even been adapted yet, at least by the band. I don't know if Freddie had already decided to call himself Mercury or not, but at this point, Brian's still calling him Bulsara. It's kind of a fun little banter between the band, including Rogers in there as well. At the end of the track, same thing. Freddie is not happy with this take. He even said, it's not very good, and you fucked up. And it's kind of fun to hear that kind of stuff as far as being, it sounds like almost feels like you're with the band while they're recording it, briefly anyway. As far as the actual musicality, I don't think it's a bad take. I disagree with Freddie, that's a bad take. But there's not a whole lot to really point out to it. Just kind of there, nothing distinctively different. It's not like they went off in a different direction. It's not like they tried something different or new. It just feels like it's just coming together, and it's nice to get that in the studio feel. That's it though. So, all right, one more version to listen to. Let's go on now to listen to the backing track version. You know what to do. I'll be back. All right, I'm back now on all these Queen reissues. For whatever reason, like it or not, the band almost always usually puts a disc of backing tracks on there, where they release the entire album as instrumentals or backing tracks or somewhat version of both. And sometimes it's actually really cool because you get to hear some of the stuff that's buried beneath the vocals, because Queen is known for having these big vocal sounds, these big vocal overdubs. Sometimes that can bury some interesting things musically wise, instrumentally I should say, underneath. That's not the case here. I'm not going to lie, it's not the case here because there's not a whole lot behind it, especially considering this is a backing track, not completely instrumental. So you do have a lot of those backing vocals. In fact, some of Freddie's lead vocals are still part of the backing track, as it were. So it gets rid of a few of the initial Freddie lyrical parts, but there's not a whole lot underneath that's different. It's not like the Freddie, singular voice of Freddie in the beginning was really covering up a whole lot. So I honestly I didn't really hear much of anything different than I would have heard with the regular track. So honestly, this is kind of a bust for me. I don't think it was that important. I get the completeness of it. If you're going to release the whole album instrumentally, you got to release the whole album instrumentally or backing track wise. So I get while it's on there, but I don't even think this is much of a even curious listen to be completely honest with you. But your miles may vary. Maybe you found something I didn't. Leave it in the comments. All right, let's jump to the next section, which is ranking the song on a scale of 1 to 11. Originally ranked this an 8. Nothing about that changes. This is still an 8. I think nothing new to discuss there. It's very likely that none of this is going to change any ratings of the songs, because unless it's something really amazingly out there, I mean, I could see it maybe going up half a point or something to that effect if we really discover something. But the track is something I've always loved and enjoyed, but not anything I'm going to put at over an 8 anyway. Maybe an 8.5, but I'll stick with an 8. But now we're going to do the fun part, which is the ranking parts. Originally, before we ranked the track, we only had the one track to rank. It was just the bonus track. That was it. Now we have versions to rank. So out of the 4 versions, from my least favorite to the crown jewel and what's going to go into my Ultimate Queen playlist, bottom one, that's the backing track version. Again, there's no real reason for me to listen to this. I'm going to listen to the regular version if I'm going to listen to this. No, really, even the Trident Take 3 guide vocal, which is probably less of a crown jewel overall, it's much more interesting to hear with the banter, with the backing, with the being live in the studio almost. I prefer listening to that for sure. But that's actually where I put the Trident Take 3 is next on the list, because quite frankly, if I'm going to listen to a crown jewel version, it's going to be one of the actual officially released versions, because those are with a real vocal, with a real solid finish. So which version is it? I don't think you'll find it any surprise that I'm going to put the 2024 mix on top. I think the 2024 mix is superior sounding. It's brighter, it's crisper, all that stuff I said before. So if I'm going to listen to a version, why would I listen to the muddier sounding version? So 2024 mix for the win. Mad to Swine, inserted where it belongs, at least where initially it was intended, between Great King Rat and My Fairy King. And that shall do it for this week, folks. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for checking in, as always. Follow me, subscribe, leave comments, leave ratings, 5 stars, all that good stuff. I do have Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. I do have a sister YouTube channel where I do movies and TV reviews, basically. And if you join the Patreon, that'll help me out even further and get some early content, especially of Crown Jewels. To be completely honest, is one of the ones I definitely record earlier on in the week before I release it on Fridays. Do that. If not, I get it. I understand times are tough, but you can help still by sharing and bring this community together. I appreciate every one of you, and I'm very happy to be continuing this show for the foreseeable future. We'll get through Queen 1 and we'll return to where we were, which is the Flash Gordon soundtrack, before we get into the first solo album by Roger Taylor, which I'm excited to get into. Fun in Space is coming up after Flash Gordon, so that should be a lot of fun too. But that's still a while away. We still got a lot of tracks from Queen 1 to revisit, including next week's track, My Fairy King, which I've always considered to be the first step towards Bohemian Rhapsody. Very Freddie track, and we'll have to see what the new versions do for us from the Queen 1 box set. We have the 2024 mix, we have the Trident backing track in development, and of course, as always, the backing track. All right, it's going to do it for us this week, so we'll see you next week, and until then, stay mad, eat some swine. I don't have any puns here. I'm done. All right, I'll see you next week. Take care.